We will get set it and started in just a little bit. Get acquainted with folks. And I believe the owner, Gloria, is going to be present as well. So we'll get started in just a little bit. Just making some adjustments to sound. Can somebody confirm that you can hear me okay? How's our audio right now? Oh, great. Gloria has popped into the live chat. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Great. Okay, thanks for that, Bob. Appreciate that. Thanks, Susie. We will get started in just a little bit. Looks like our audience is steadily growing, and it's great to have the owner here and some of their family members as well. We'll get started in just a few seconds. Well, while I have a little bit of Italian music, not sure why I put on Italian, but I just felt like Italian today. I'm going to share a little story with you. Yeah. And actually, I think my Italian music is coming to an end right now. But that's okay. So I oftentimes will ask, excuse me for a second. We went from Italian to I don't know what that was. But I ask owners of machines to share a story, to give some insight into how this machine came into their life and the significance of that machine as well. And so this is what Gloria had to share with with me, and now I share it with all of you. She said, my grandfather bought this machine for her when she was 12 years old in 1968. He was incredibly frugal, and it surprised everyone in the family when Gloria's mother asked him, and he actually bought it for her. Gloria immediately took a Singer sewing class. Right after that class, she won their Cleveland-wide contest. And her winning outfit is still in her closet today, a green printed dress, and I'll show you a picture of it in a little bit. A green printed dress with a cummerbund, a reversible matching jacket, and a reversible matching purse. Her prize was a fully equipped sewing case, which sadly fell apart only a few years ago. Nothing lasts forever, except for, I think, sewing machines do if they're in the right hands. And that's why Gloria brought this machine to the workshop, and now we could get a chance to see and celebrate this great machine again. Gloria goes on to write, she says, for many years as an adult, I made most of my wardrobe on my Singer and spent many an hour browsing the Vogue pattern books in fabric stores. Later, I would sit my infant girl on my lap, and that's Kat. We'll see Kat in a little bit as well, as I made her baby clothes on it. Yet, before she arrived, I had sewn her crib mattress covers, side bumpers, crib skirt, and canopy. They were in a circus theme with colors, plus a matching diaper holder and changing table top. Oh, and a Moses blanket. Recently, Gloria writes, I have had to have the bobbin fixed 4 times locally and cried in frustration each time my machine quickly broke again. I thought I would have to send it to Singer for repairs, but they don't do that anymore. So sorrowfully, I put it in my storeroom in its original box. And Gloria bought a new Singer. There was no comparison. It was plastic and cheaply made. I was so frustrated every time I had to use it to hem my daughter's pants. She is very short. I don't know if Kat appreciates being called short. We'll say that she's fun size, okay? So Kat is fun size, kind of like I refer to Susie sometimes and others in our group that are a little bit height impaired. So it didn't even have an instruction book, and this is the book that Gloria bought as a filler machine, not believing that she could get this machine fixed and repaired. Gloria writes, I had to Google how to wind the bobbin and Google anything else I didn't know about the machine, which was everything. Plus, it sews terribly and would take me twice the normal time to make or repair anything. Gloria goes on to write, I was upset enough that I decided I had to get my old machine fixed. I Googled and found Scott's information. He was good at fixing old machines, just what I needed. I gave it to him in a grocery parking lot. This is true. I meet all of the customers at Oxendale's in Minneapolis. And so, yes, I meet all of my customers, both to pick up the machine and then also to return it to them. And I'll be doing that again with several machines shortly. Let's see. But I forgot, Gloria goes to write it. She says, but I forgot to get a receipt. So as more and more time passed, I panicked. It might be, God forbid, it might be gone. So Gloria started to get concerned and said, gosh, I lost this guy's business card. I don't remember exactly how to contact him. Now I'm not hearing from him. And maybe my machine is gone forever. And again, a very special machine that Gloria's grandfather gave her in 1968. So Gloria goes on to write, I never found it and was quite jaded, to say the least. I despaired that I would never see my old machine again and cried. It must have been my ESP traveling through space, for the very next day, Scott called me. Well, I don't know about ESP, but I called Gloria because I finally got to her box. She had put her older model 626 that Grandpa gave to her. She had put it in the box for her new Singer, the 4411, and I hadn't really dug through the box. And all of a sudden, I discovered there was no foot controller, and there was no foot controller power cord. So I needed a way to get the machine powered up so I could begin working on it. So I did reach out to Gloria, and apparently that put her mind at ease that I hadn't moved to Russia with her machine or something like that. So then Gloria goes on the right. What a relief. I had forgotten to give him the power cord. The next day, I handed it to him in the same grocery parking lot and got a receipt. But I am no longer worried. Scott just sent me dozens of internal pictures of his total repair. It looks like I will soon have my old machine back in a like new condition based on his many internal pictures of it. I can hardly wait. My daughter just bought more pants that are 8 inches too long for her. So all is well in the universe. Gloria. Isn't that an awesome story? That's just a fabulous, fabulous story. I love it. So yeah, Gloria, rest assured, I've been doing this for about 24 years, and I've had the privilege and honor of servicing machines from customers around the world. And as we are involved in this live stream today to celebrate your machine that grandfather gave to you back in 1968, it looks like we have hundreds, over 700 people that have joined us today to celebrate this machine with you and with your family and with all of the rest of our friends that are in this live stream. So I'm incredibly thankful. I feel incredibly blessed to be a part of this. So let me show you these pictures now before you guys go, hey, where are the pictures? We want pictures. So I'll see if I can pull these pictures up real quick. Let's see here. Let's get a picture of, I believe this is, and Gloria can confirm with me, I believe this is a picture of Kat, her daughter. This is a picture of Gloria's daughter, Kat. And I'll tell you one thing, she is, what a cutie, right? What a cutie. What a cutie. Wow. Wow. All right, all of you men in the audience right now, get a stick, bring it to the workshop, and we're going to give it to Gloria to beat away the boys, right? What a beautiful little girl. So this is Kat, and this is one of the dresses that Gloria made for Kat on this machine right here. What a beauty, huh? What else do I have? Hold on a second. Oh, I think that's the wrong way. Haha. Let's go this way. There's another picture of Gloria's daughter, Kat. And really quite a lovely pic of this little girl modeling that beautiful dress again. Let me go back a little bit further so you can see the ruffles and everything on it. Wow. That is beautiful work, Gloria. Beautiful work. Look at the detail on that, y'all. Look at the detail. Unbelievable. And here is a crib. Gloria can explain more what this is, but this is also part of what Gloria made with this machine back in the day for her daughter, Kat, when she was just a wee little one, You can see some of the detail on this as well. Yeah, pantaloons. I was trying to think of the word. Got some beautiful pantaloons as well. Let's see what else we have. It's another picture of the crib, and it looks like some pillows and other things that Gloria made to complement this crib. There's a full shot of the crib. I'll tell you one thing, if you went to Tiffany's or one of the other fancy stores, can you imagine what something like this would cost? And there's the beauty of having a working machine and having the skills and the vision for creating something spectacular like this, whether it's for your daughter, like Gloria did for Kat, or whether it is for a friend, maybe somebody at work that's having a baby. You don't have to create something necessarily this elaborate, but you can make something spectacular that is a one of a kind and isn't available anywhere else in the world because you made it. And there again is the beauty of what we can do with our vintage sewing machines, right? Let me get a little bit closer here. I love that. Am I using the right phrase? The canopy, is that the canopy on top? Isn't that spectacular? Look at the colors. Look at the colors on that canopy. Just amazing. Just amazing. I don't remember if I have any others. Oh yeah, of course I do. I think this is my last one. And this is the spectacular dress that Gloria made when she was just a very young lady, right after getting this sewing machine from her grandfather. Let me see if I can hold my arm steady and give you a clear shot of this really cool dress. And it won a statewide contest, like I read earlier. Plus, it has a purse. Looks like a purse with it as well. No, I'm surprised nobody in the audience is giving me a hard time right now. Look at these buttonholes right here. I don't know if I can enlarge that or not. Hold on a second. See those buttonholes? I am like anti-buttonhole. I'll have to get Gloria to do buttonholes for us. Beautiful fabric too, right? Absolutely gorgeous fabric. At any rate, I wanted to share these pictures with you to give you an appreciation for the history and the depth and the significance of this machine. And no wonder when Gloria and I lost contact with each other because she had misplaced the business card I gave her when we met, and she's panicking, saying, "Oh my gosh, this treasure of a machine that grandfather got me in 1968 is gone forever." So we have an opportunity today to be able to celebrate this machine again. Not only what it's done in the past, which you just saw pictures of, but to celebrate what this machine will now do in the present and in the future as Gloria sits down to this machine again. And I don't know what happened with the other sewing machine people. I have no idea why she had to take it in 4 times and the machine would continue to have issues afterwards. I'm also going to be covering the operation of this machine today as well, because I've discovered something. When any of us have something for a long enough time, we can forget some of the basics. I know I do. We can forget some of the basics. And the result is, I'll see if I can get into the shot here. Maybe not. Let me see if I put this up on the shelf. Okay, so what I was beginning to say is any one of us, when we have something for a long time, we can kind of forget the basics of it. We take things for granted. We kind of go autopilot. And sewing machines are fairly forgiving, but machines, they expect certain things of us, just like we expect certain things of them. So I'm going to cover this not only for Gloria, if it's helpful, but also for others that watch this live stream as a video later that might also have a similar machine like this. And there may not be a lot of videos out there that would be helpful in clarifying, oh, what do I do to do this? Or what do I do to do that? I'm hoping to be able to cover some of that in this live stream today as a benefit to Gloria and others. So kind of watch for that. We'll wind a bobbin with this machine, which is kind of cool because we do the bobbin winding while the bobbin is still in the machine, and we do it through the needle. And I'll show you how to do that. And I'll show you how to insert the bobbin. There's a different way to insert the bobbin versus putting an empty bobbin in there for winding. So I'll cover some of that as well. And hopefully it's a reminder to those that have had a machine like this for a long time. And they're like, oh, I have been doing that wrong, which I hear all the time from customers. They're like, I didn't know my machine could do that, or I didn't know that about my machine. And so that's the other great benefit of doing a live stream like this or a premiere is I can revisit some of those basics that when that person first got the machine back in the day, they probably, they read the manual. They probably grabbed the manual and they went through the manual and started paging through and double checking and verifying all those things about the machine. And then as we get comfortable with something, a machine, a car, anything, we usually put that manual away and we kind of forget about those things. So we'll cover some of that in the live stream today as well. At least I hope we will. So again, a special welcome to the owner, Gloria. A special welcome to Kat and other family members of Gloria's that might be in the live stream as well, or might watch this later as a video. We're privileged and honored to have you as a part of our family. We call it the Cow Country family. So even if it's just for one live stream, although I have had other customers that enjoyed the process so much, they become regulars at the live streams and start watching other people's machines and celebrating other machines that have gone through the workshop process as well. So who knows, maybe Gloria will surprise us at a future live stream or a premiere and just pop in and say, hey, I just wanted to pop in and say hello. And by the way, my machine is still working. I haven't had to take it back anywhere. So that's always music to my ears, is customer that's happy. And after they've had some challenges and bad experiences with other people that try to do the type of work that I do, they've had a great experience and they can move on with life and they can make more memories with that sewing machine for special little girls like Kat or other family members or friends or who knows what, right? So anyway, blah, blah, blah. Let me get going and we'll get into this machine. Grab the camera back again. So I'll give you just a quick little view of this incredibly precious machine. See if I can move the camera over here. Back up a little bit more. I've got the camera set up to be on Zoom right now. So when I do sew-offs, it's a little bit easier for me, but it sometimes makes it a little bit cumbersome as far as getting distance shots. I'm like halfway across the room right now. So this is, if some of you aren't familiar with this model 626, it actually was a much later version of the slant-o-matic series. And some of you might remember that Singer introduced the slant-o-matic series. Does anyone remember? Let me ask this of the audience. Does anyone remember what the first slant-o-matic machine was What model was that? The first slant-o-matic. And if you know what year it was introduced, that would be super cool. Does anyone remember? This is a slant-o-matic, glorious. There was a beginning machine for this series where Singer took the needle, and instead of having the needle go up and down, Singer decided that if I can get my camera over there somewhere, Singer decided that they wanted the needle to be slanted slightly forward. They wanted the needle to be slightly forward so that the sewist, as they're laying down stitching, with the needle angled forward slightly, they're able to see the stitches more quickly than if the needle is up and down. You'll often see people sewing and they're looking behind the presser foot because they can't see the stitching until it clears the presser foot, and they can't see what's happening at the front of the presser foot. Well, Singer decided we're going to fix that, and we're going to create a slant-o-matic sewing machine. A slant-o-matic sewing machine that is going to have an angled needle bar. It's going to have an angled presser foot, and the sewist will be able to watch the stitching being laid down, not at the back of the presser foot, but at the front of the presser foot as it's being laid down. So it gave the sewist a new perspective of what was happening down at the needle that they never, ever had before. And I'm going to look at some of the answers. Tim had put out there the Singer 401. The Singer 401 came out actually much later in the slant-o-matic series than the first sewing machine. Let me give you a big hint. The first sewing machine in the slant-o-matic series was, in fact, the big sister to the featherweight. Does anyone remember what that machine is? What is the big sister to the featherweight? And that's something that I started in the internet, and now there are people around the world that use that same figure of speech when they're referring to this model. When they're referring to this model, to say, oh, the big sister to the featherweight, because it shares a lot of attributes of the little featherweight 221. And I see Alex just nailed it. The 301. The 301 was the very first. And then right after it, the 301A that Tim just typed in there was the next slant-o-matic in the slant-o-matic series. And then there were a wide variety of other machines that followed that. A lot of other machines that followed that. The straight stitch only slant-o-matic, the 404, and the 503A, the 500A, the Rocketeer, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on and on. So this machine that Gloria got as a very special gift from her very frugal grandfather, who dipped very deep into his pockets because he loved his granddaughter and he wanted to give her something very special and something very lasting. This was a machine that carries on that proud legacy of the slant-o-matic series. And it shares a number of other attributes as well with the slant-o-matics that came out in the very early time period with that introduction to the 301 as the very first one. All right. So let me walk you around this machine a little bit, and then we're going to get into this. So most of us are used to dropping feed dogs when we want to do free motion quilting or freehand embroidery. This model 626 has the same feature that the much earlier slant-o-matic machines had, and that is it's got a throat plate riser. So as you're sewing on this machine, if you decide you want to either have a lighter touch, let's say we're doing some silk or satin or something like that, you can simply push this to the side and you can take away part of the bite. You might not even have seen it rise up, but I pushed it and it just came up just slightly to reduce the grip and grab of those feed dogs. And then we can push it a little bit further to totally get rid of those feed dogs. Now the throat plate is actually high enough that it's preventing those feed dogs from having contact. And then finally, if you want, you can push it all the way to the unlock phase. Push it all the way to the unlock phase. And at that point, you're able to then remove this throat plate cover and clean out all the lint and stuff that gets stuck underneath there, right? Get all that lint out of there. Get that area tidied up. And then when you're done with all of that, you can push it back the other way and lock it back into place again so that you can resume sewing. Now we're looking at a very unique bobbin system on this model. We're looking at a very, very unique bobbin system on this model. And I'm going to show you some of that stuff about this machine. Let me see if I can put the camera down. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about this bobbin system. The first thing I'll tell you is it's a very, very clever design, but it also has its shortcomings as well. And I always am very honest in live streams about the positive and the negative, if you will, or the opportunities when it comes to any sewing machine. Let me just shut that light off for a second. There we go. So one of the limitations about this system is that the bobbins that are designed to work with this system do not hold a lot of thread. They do not hold a lot of thread. They only hold approximately 20 yards. They only hold about 20 yards of thread. So if you're doing a big project like that crib or that dress that Gloria made as a young lady, you're going to be going through a lot of bobbins, because there's only the maximum on these bobbins is 20 yards. And so when you're looking at even a smaller spool like this, like you sometimes will see me put on the machines, this has 125 yards on it. So someone that's really good with math, what percentage of this bobbin, or what percentage of this thread spool, I should say, what percentage of this thread spool can this bobbin hold? 125 yards, and the bobbin can only hold approximately 20 yards of thread. Is anybody good at math? I'm not. I'm horrible at math. Wouldn't it be 1/60th or something like that? Hey, I'll go down the list of live chat real quick and say hello to folks as well while you're contemplating this. So, at any rate, my point is that these bobbins don't hold a lot of thread. And there's 2 rings on them that you have to be aware of. I'll see if I can show them. Actually, there's 3 rings, I guess, technically. There's 3 rings on these bobbins. If you fill to the very outer ring, you can see kind of where my finger is. If you fill to the very outer ring, you've got about 20 yards of thread on the spool. If you fill it to the inner ring, that one right there, not the inner ring, but the outer inner ring. The outer inner ring. I'm making stuff up now. The outer inner ring holds about 10 yards of thread. So the max is 20 yards. If you underfill it to that inner ring there, you got 10 yards. And if you fill it to the inner ring, the smallest one, I got no idea what you've got, but it's very little thread. So if you're sewing on a project, you kind of watch that, because you'll run out of thread before you realize it. It goes quick. It goes very, very quick. All right, let's talk a little bit more about setting this machine up. But before I do that, I'll go down the list of folks and say hello to folks real quick, okay? Let me go over by let's see here. That's a better shot. We'll see if I'm able to say some quick good mornings, some quick hellos. Well, it looks like the first in the classroom today was Susie, and right on her heels was Gloria, the owner. Delighted again that Gloria and some of her family members can join us today. So I'm going to say good morning to Susie, say good morning to Gloria again, and say good morning to Bob as well. I don't know who Bob is, but maybe Gloria can tell us. Same last name, so it's someone that's directly related to Gloria. Also, good morning to Joelle out in Bakersfield, California. And yes, I didn't plan this, but I have the shirt that Joelle and her mom Sandra gave me on today. My Bakersfield, California shirt. I'll show you just so you know that I'm not just making it up. Who else do we have? We also have Tim from Thorpe, Wisconsin, and we'll be meeting Tim and Teresa very, very soon. I believe it's next week. We'll be meeting them at the Torpedo, which is a really cool restaurant in Thorpe, Wisconsin. And we'll be giving them some Guggenheim shears. We'll be giving them a puzzle box that Teresa won in one of my impromptu contests. And if you don't know what a puzzle box is, it's a really cool wooden box that was custom made. And anyone that wants to type any other information in the live chat about what the heck is a puzzle box, that would be super cool. Let's see who else we have. We also have James Graham. Great to have James here this morning. Let's see who else. Great to have Teresa here. Teresa and Tim again will be breaking bread with us next week, which is awesome. Let's see who else. Scrolling. Also, good morning to Al Koss, which is Alex, also from the great state of California. Great to have Alex here. And you know what? I should acknowledge Alex because he got the answer right as far as the first in the slant-o-matic series, the 301. I'm going to give Alex a choice because he stepped forward and he nailed it. I believe he's the first one to nail it. So almost the same color as Gloria's machine is some of my very coveted. I get contacted all the time from people around the world that want to buy this grease, and I don't sell it. I give it away generally as a gift. So I'll give Alex the choice of a tin of my coveted pink grease that he can use to lubricate his machines out in California, or the alternative is he can get a super cool pair of these micro screwdrivers. I don't know if I can even get him to stand up. I'll try. Aren't those adorable? I love these things. They're so cool. They only stand about a little bit over an inch high. So I'll give Alex the choice since he got the 301 answer correct. He can either have a choice of these tiny little screwdrivers, a set of those, or he can have some of my pink grease. And you don't have to tell me now, Alex. You can even send me a text message after the live stream if you want to think about it for a little bit. No rush. But I'll be giving more of these away. Susie and I found them locally, and I said, oh my goodness gravy, I got to get a bunch of those. So I've got several sets. I got a set for me. I got a set for Susie, and I've got a lot of others in reserve that eventually I'll give away. So when I ask questions, if you not just to win something, but if you want to show that you're really engaged in the process in the classroom, then jump in right away and throw an answer out there, and you might get something cool like this, or you might even get something cool like a puzzle box like Teresa got, or a pair of Guggenheim professional tailoring scissors. I'm on a control. I love giving stuff away. I do. So I'll leave that up to Alex to decide. And I do have a couple of other tins of this as well, that if the leadership team during the live stream today wants to come up with some other little mini contest They don't have to, but if they want to, the leaders can come up with their own contest. They can type it in the live chat. And if they decide that you're the winner, they'll let me know. And then I'll give you a choice. One other person of either these tiny little screwdrivers or a tin of the grease. So I'll leave that up to the leaders if they want to pursue that. If they don't, that's fine too. All right. Who else do I need to say hello to real quick? Let's see here. Oh, also good morning to Glass Gofflin. Great to have Glass Gofflin here as well. Now, we have a lot of visitors from around the world where, and I should know this, but I've got so much going on right now with the transition to Kentucky. Where is Glass Gofflin from? Where is Glass Gofflin from? That's not our friend from Turkey, is it? No, I don't think so. At any rate, forgive me for not remembering, but I've got so much in my head right now. If you saw what was going on in the workshop, you'd be like, Jiminy crickets. That guy is buried up to his eyeballs. Oh, Bob is Gloria's younger brother. Okay. So that's Bob. Bob is Gloria's younger brother. Very cool. Very, very cool. And Alex is already saying, I want the grease. Send me the doggone grease, man. Mail me the grease now. Ha ha. All right. So I'll mail one of those grease containers off to Alex. And again, if the leaders come up with another contest, they don't have to. But if they come up with a contest and they determine that you're the winner, you can either have your choice of one of these tins of my coveted custom proprietary, how does he make that stuff, pink grease? Or again, you can have a set of those really cool micro screwdrivers. It's up to you. All right. Back to the bobbin. So first of all, how do you get this bobbin out of there? How do you get that bobbin out of there? Well, I'll show you that right now. I'll show that to you right now. So this little tab right here is spring loaded, right? You can get your fingernail underneath it, or 2 fingernails probably is better. And you're going to rotate it up like that. Okay, you're going to rotate it up like that. And this is a very delicate mechanism. So keep that in mind. When you're opening this, we can all get a little bit impatient, especially with these bobbins only holding 20 yards of thread. We might, oh, doggone it, I ran out again, and you flip it up kind of hard, but don't do that. Treat it very gently when you're opening and closing it, okay? Treat it very gently. And then you get your fingernails, which I really don't have any fingernail, but I'll give it my shot. Otherwise, I'm going to call for Susie to come down and help me. But I'm going to try to get my fingernail underneath there. Otherwise, I'll very carefully use this screwdriver just underneath the edge very gently and see if I can get that to pop up. Then I can pull that bobbin out. You can see there, I've got this bobbin wound almost to right about to capacity, don't I? You see right there, I've got it wound almost to that outer line. So I've got a little bit less than 20 yards of thread to work with during this live stream. But the good news is we're going to wind another bobbin right now. So then we'll have about 40 yards or a little bit less than 40 yards to do the sew-offs that I want to demonstrate on Gloria's machine. So I'm going to rewind this a little bit now and set it to the side, and I'll get an empty bobbin, and I'll do my best. I'm not real skilled at this, not nearly as skilled as Gloria, as the owner, who has probably sewn on this machine thousands of hours, but I'll do my best. Okay, I'll do my best. So here we have an empty bobbin. Go ahead and drop it in there. Then I'm going to push my little lever back down. And again, I'm going to do it gently. Do it gently and get it into place so that it holds that bobbin down. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to push this little, almost looks like a target, doesn't it? kind of looks like the Target store logo. The Target store logo, we've got to push that down when we're going to wind a bobbin through the machine. I better turn the light on as well. And hopefully that doesn't totally blind you guys. It kind of messes things up a little bit, doesn't it? Let me see if I can push that back a little bit further. Maybe if I push the camera back further, it won't do as many goofy things. Okay. So I'm going to push this little button down. The manual describes it as pushing it down to the left, but I really don't find that to be the case. I just kind of push it down. It locks in place. And then after it locks in place, we've got to do a couple of things to the thread. Also, I better turn my power back on, and we're not going to get very far. So one of the things we have to do is we've got to take the thread now, the upper thread, and we've got to wind it around our presser foot screw. See our little presser foot screw right there? We're going to wind it around there because eventually what's going to happen when we start winding is it's going to break this thread. We'll have to pull that little piece of thread out, and then it'll keep winding the bobbin, okay? So I'm going to do my best to see if I can pull this off. Oh, a couple of other really important things. I better remember to mention this. You've got to check the settings on the machine as well before you wind a bobbin. Okay, setting number one, you've got to make sure that the pattern, you got to make sure that the pattern selector is on straight stitch, which it is. And the way you change patterns on Gloria's machine is you push this in. Again, it's got a delicate mechanism, so you push it in gently, and then you can move it from one stage to another, like this. So if I want that stitch, I can let go of it now, and it kind of locks in place. Push it in, rotate it back to straight stitch, and let it out again. Now, let me give you another important tip. You'll have to ask Gloria, how did she get this crack in this? I'm just being nosy. I'm being nosy. I wonder how Gloria got this crack in the plastic. But any rate, so we've got this set on straight stitch. Whenever you're changing pattern selections on this machine, always take your stitch width controller and take it down to 1. I always say take it down to 0, but take it all the way down. Because what that does is it pulls that little reader finger back away from the cam stack so that it's not grinding against the cam stack as you're trying to change stitch patterns. So if I want to, I get done sewing, let's say I get done sewing this pattern over here. I'll just move to one randomly. I get done sewing this pattern and I've had it over on stitch width, right? Had it on 5 or 4 or something like that. Before I jump back over the stitch pattern, I want to make sure that I zero this out. I take it all the way back down so that this can move freely. Don't try forcing it. Take this down to 1, and then this will move freely, okay? This will move freely any way you want to move it, okay? All right, so again, when you're getting ready to wind a bobbin, set this on straight stitch, the one all the way to the far left. Make sure your stitch width is on the lowest setting, on 1. Make sure that your needle position is in the center position. Don't have it left needle or right needle. It's got to be center. This has to be on 1, and this needs to be on the straight stitch all the way to the left. As far as stitch length, I don't think it really matters, but I always have it all the way down at the bottom anyway, right? So let me say that one more time. It's really, really important you get this. Whenever you're changing the pattern selector, if you have the stitch width on anything greater than 1, if you have it here, or you have it here, or all the way over here, before you touch that, before you try to move that, take this all the way down to the lowest setting so that that finger pulls back, and then this isn't grinding against that cam stack. That will damage your machine very, very quickly. Okay. So we've got this set correctly for bobbin winding. We have this set correctly for bobbin winding. We have this set correctly for bobbin winding. Now we'll see if I studied this well enough and I can actually wind a bobbin. Otherwise, I'll be going, Gloria, help, help, Gloria, help. All right. Let me get that right there. Give me 1 second here. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to move the machine out a little bit so I've got a little bit more room between the camera. Change the angle of the camera a little bit. So now I'm going to take my thread, my upper thread, and I'm going to wind it around this little post right here that holds on the presser foot. I'm going to wind it to the rear, kind of like this. I think the book says about 2 or 3 or something like that as far as the number of turns around it. You just kind of hold onto your little thread, and then you can close this door partially, right about to there. Wait a second, I went too far. Right about to there. Okay. And actually, I'm going to leave it open. I think I can leave it open. I don't think I'm breaking any rules. I'm going to leave it open so you can watch that bobbin start to fill. Let me see if I can move the camera a little bit closer. All right. I got my little doodad down. Okay. Hopefully I did this right. All right. Here we go. Hold on 1 second. And we are just about at 12, or excuse me, we're just about at 20 yards right there. I think we're real close. I'm trying to see because of the glare. Hold on, quick. Yeah, I think we're real close to being full. It's hard for me to see from this angle, but I think we're pretty close. I'll go just a little bit further. Okay, so I'm going to stop there and go ahead and rotate my needle up. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get that thread out of the way. My needle's up. Cheat and pull my thread a little bit. All right, so now I'm going to cut this. A little bit of static electricity today. Incredibly warm, humid weather we've been having here. There we go. Put that right there. And you can pretty much see from this angle, that the flat side of the needle, maybe you can't see that, the flat side of the needle is to the rear. So when you slide your needle in, and the needle we're going to be using today is a Schmetz. I'll show you what it is. Take that out real quick. I want to show you how to load a bobbin that's already full too. Trying to catch the edge of that. Just making sure I don't have any thread stuck in there. It's the only thing that makes me a little bit nervous about winding a bobbin. Okay, so let's see here. There's the bobbin we just wound. So I'm going to set that to the side. And I got real close to that outer ring, didn't I? We're almost a little bit short of 20 yards, but real close. I'll put our other bobbin back in. And I don't know if Gloria does it the same way, but I found that when I'm trying to start out with a bobbin that's already been filled, because the book covers bobbins that are filled and then bobbins that are not filled. I find that it's easier if I push this down, the little button thing, and then I drop the bobbin into place. It seems to lock in a little bit better. So I just dropped in that filled bobbin. Now I'm going to put my little, and you want to put the thread to the left of this little spring-loaded holder. Shut the light off again. You want to put the thread to the left of this little spring-loaded holder when you put this down. Make sure I've got it in there correctly, hopefully. And then once you do that, disengage that. Close your door. I didn't leave much of a tail there, did I? Hopefully I left enough of a tail that we can pull it up. Owners are always a lot better at this than I am. So grab my tweezers so I can grab that thread. All right. So I've got that thread back. Now I got to get this thread back. There we go. I think I've got it correctly. Okay, I think we're done. So it's a little bit different than loading a bobbin like we would on most other Singer machines, isn't it? A little bit different. So we're going to do our best to work with this and have success with it today, because it's a fabulous machine. All right, let me rotate that back over there. So I wanted to show you the needle we're going to be working with today is the Schmetz stick natal embroidery needle. It's a size 75 that we have in the machine right now. I could have picked a size 90, but I ended up picking a size 75. So we won't be going as hardcore in sewing multiple layers of leather, because we're sewing with an embroidery needle and we're also sewing with a size 75, which is quite a bit smaller than our size 90 that we usually use, right? Quite a bit smaller. So as Susie had pointed out just a second ago, flat side to the rear. And now we're going to do our first sew off finally. The other thing I'll show you real quick, originally when I was getting ready for this live stream, I was going to use the embroidery needles that are put out by Hello Hobby. These are available at Walmart. These are available at a number of other retailers. I've done them in other live streams, and they did okay. But I started to have some issues with these on Gloria's machine, where when I was sewing a pattern, like this one right here, the second one down, it was missing stitches. Missing stitches right there. You see that one in the second row? Missing stitches over here, and here, and here. It was having issues. And then I put a Schmetz embroidery needle in, and I sewed this final row right here, and it came out exactly as it should. So I'm sure, as Jenny, our ambassador to needles, would tell us, needles make a difference, and not all needles are created equal. So if you're doing embroidery type work or you're dealing with more decorative stitches, you can try both of these because these are quite a bit cheaper than those, but realize you might get a different outcome. Okay? You might get a totally different outcome. All right. It's so quiet in here. I'm going to put on a little bit of music for a second, I think, before we jump into this sew off, but I'll get the sew off into place. Oh, I should cover one other thing real quick on this machine. Maybe a couple of other things. So stitch length control right here. If you want the longest stitch possible, around 6 to 7 stitches per inch, you'll want to have it in the same position that I do right now. As we're doing some of the more decorative ornamental stitches in this live stream, we're going to be pushing this up closer to the fine range. Whenever you're doing more ornate stitches, like some of these on here, you want to shorten up that stitch length quite a bit. So we'll be right in the fine range probably. And then if you want to sew in reverse on Gloria's machine, you just push it all the way up to the top. On-off switch for the light. And yes, I did replace Gloria's light. I took out the incandescent, the old incandescent that was pretty much fried anyway. See how dark it is. And I replaced it with a high output LED light that puts out little or no heat. As we're moving into the summer, as we're moving into the warmer months, especially if your sewing space is kind of closed off, you don't want to be generating a lot of heat with a bulb like this because it can generate about 200 degrees of heat continuously as you're sewing. So an LED light is a much, much better option. And if you're looking to, let me see, I don't know if I can do it with this hand or not. Yeah, I don't think I can do it with this hand. But at any rate, it's easy enough. This has a little carriage on it, and you can pull this down, and you can change out the light on here. I don't have any fingernails. You can change out the light. You just drop this down, and then you can put a bayonet style LED light into your touch and sew as well. Okay. All right. So on-off switch, needle position. And again, needle position is only going to work when you're set on a straight stitch with a pattern. Don't move the pattern selector somewhere over here and try adjusting the needle position. It's going to create problems and confuse the machine, and the machine will pretty much ignore you anyway, because any of these that have needle swing, it's going to override any needle position you select anyway. But when you're in straight stitch mode, you can certainly benefit from moving it left or right accordingly. This again is our stitch width. Stitch width, when you're set on 1, really, I don't know why it doesn't say 0, but when you're set on 1, you're straight stitching. And then as you move it across, that stitch gets wider and wider and wider. Stitch selector again, never move this if this is anywhere other than 1. Always move this to 1 before you change stitch selector. You just push it in, you hold it in, and then you can move it to the stitch that you want, let it out, and then it'll lock into place. Also, we talk a lot about presser foot pressure and how critical it is. Right inside of the faceplate area, you've got presser foot pressure dial control. So you can dial the pressure, turning it either counterclockwise or clockwise to increase it. Right now we're set on 5. And then you also have a, a threading diagram over here as well inside of the faceplate. That became very, very popular with the earliest slant-o-matic series machines. They had a threading guide right in there, so you didn't need to go to the manual. So that's kind of cool too. If you decide you want to do servicing on a machine like this, you only have 1 bolt right over here, but that's because there's a metal clip right about here that goes underneath the housing of the machine casting. So when you take this bolt out, if you want to service the machine, you've got to carefully, with it unthreaded, obviously, with the machine unthreaded, you have to very carefully, once you take that bolt out, you have to slide the lid to the left. And then you have to do the same thing when you're putting it back on. You have to get it down into a position where it's level. And then you have to apply quite a bit of force to get this lid to snap back into place. And then you put your bolt in last once you get it in the proper position. Okay? So just be aware of that metal clamp so that you don't try, you don't take that bolt out and think something's wrong and you try prying it off or something like that. But it really is important you know how to do that, because you'll notice there's no oiling points across Gloria's machine on top, other than like this little hole right here, but that's not even an oiling point. That's for an extra spool pin if you're doing twin needle sewing. So take the lid off periodically if you've got a machine like this, and you can oil the different parts. Anything that moves when you rock your balance wheel underneath here, you put 1 to 2 drops of oil on that to make sure that the machine is properly lubricated. Same thing in the faceplate area. Any of the parts that move when you rock the balance wheel, put 1 to 2 drops of oil on those as well. And there are some critical service points on the bottom of the machine as well, but that's a little bit more cumbersome because you have to take all of the rubber feet off plus an additional bolt to get the bottom of the machine off. And because when you oil the top of the machine, the oil naturally migrates down. It still is important, but it's not as critical that you go through the effort of taking all of those rubber feet off plus the bolt to lubricate the bottom of the machine. If you lubricate the top regularly, about every 8 to 10 hours of sewing, and you lubricate the faceplate, that residual oil is going to migrate down, and it's going to get into those moving parts down here and keep those lubricated well as well. The only thing down here that does need maintenance on a regular basis is on this side of the machine, there are some worm gears that need to be greased about every year. So just be aware, that you need to, maintain the machine properly to get it to continue to perform properly. Okay. And I did change some of the rubber feet on Gloria's machine as well, along with the light bulb. Some of these feet had some cracking starting on them, and they were uneven, so the machine had a little subtle rock to it. So I put brand new feet on Gloria's machine as well. Remember, you can get replacement feet on eBay, on Etsy, on Pinterest, and the part you're looking for, let's see if I can find that. The part that you're looking for, if you need to replace the rubber feet on a machine like this or any of the slant-o-matic machines, if you have rubber feet like this that are starting to show wear or develop some cracking, you can go to any of those sites that I mentioned and you look for part 174124. 174124. And these rubber feet, you can buy them in larger quantities, smaller quantities, but obviously you would want to purchase at least 4 so you could replace all of them and have an even sewing surface to reduce the vibration and everything. Okay. All right. I think that's probably, I wanted to mention one other thing real quick. When you're setting the needle on a machine like this, realize that the needle socket itself is wider. It's wider than the end of a standard needle. And that's because it's designed to accommodate a twin needle type assembly. In other words, there are certain twin needles that have a wider type shank, and in order to fit it in the needle socket, they had to make the needle socket a little bit larger than what would be required for a standard needle. So when you put the needle in, make sure when you insert it in that you gently apply a little bit of pressure to the left, so that the needle seats in the proper position. And the way you can verify that with the machine unthreaded is once you lock that needle in place, You slide it in as far as it'll go. You make sure that it's as far to the left as possible. Just rotate your balance wheel, again, with the machine unthreaded, and make sure that that needle, assuming you have this set at the center position, make sure that that needle is dead on in hitting the center or passing through the center of the throat plate opening. Okay? But it's critical you know that, because if you set the needle inadvertently to the right, as if it's a twin needle shaft or shank, you potentially, on the wider stitches, are going to be hitting the throat plate. Okay? You're potentially going to be hitting the throat plate. So again, slide it in, and you'll feel that it can wiggle a little bit. Make sure you wiggle it as far to the left as possible. Lock it in place, and then hand turn. Don't fire up your foot controller. Hand turn to make sure that that needle is coming down and it's going to hit the center of that throat plate. Okay? Yeah. All right. How about threading the machine? Should we cover that real quick? So threading the machine, coming off the top, we got our horizontally mounted thread right here. We're going to go through this hole right here. We're going to drop down to this cute little bell. I love the bell. You just kind of drape the thread over the top of the bell, and then the thread naturally comes up through this side right here. Okay? And then from there, we drop straight down through this thread guide. Make sure your presser foot lever is in the up position. Draw that thread through the tension discs and around. And when you draw it around, you'll want to pull it a little bit past, so that that take-up spring goes up, and then that thread is settled in that little notch right there. See that little notch? You actually have to physically draw that thread take-up spring up, and then that thread drops into that little saddle area. And then take your thread behind the same thread guide. See, I missed a little bit of rust on there, didn't I? I missed a little bit of rust on the front of that thread guide. Give me 1 second. Ha ha! Most of it anyway. There we go. So you draw through that thread guide, then you're going to come up to your take-up arm, thread it from right to left, come back down. We've got a thread guide right there. Make sure it kind of gets snapped in there. We got another thread guide right there, and this thread guide's a little tricky. You have to kind of bring it in from the back and then bring it so it's centered. We got another thread guide right there. And then you're going to be threading this machine from front to back. From front to back, okay? Yeah. So hopefully that's helpful, the threading aspect of it. All right, let me turn the light on and see if we can actually do a little bit of sewing with Gloria's machine. Hopefully I did a good job of putting that bobbin back in. All right, we'll start with a straight stitch, and then we'll go down through all of the stitches that Gloria's machine will do. And I need to, I almost made a boo-boo. I still had the stitch length controller all the way up in reverse. It was like, oh, we're sewing in reverse. So I moved it back down again. All right. Camera will eventually focus when it's ready, when it's good and ready. So kind of watch that slant needle. You may be able to see those stitches coming down a little bit more readily than you can with a standard type sewing machine. That's the benefit, again, of the slant-o-matic design. All right, let's give this a go. All right, so my straight stitch is done. And I'll show you all these stitches when we get done. And I see I have to make a tension adjustment. Our upper tension is set. I was doing some sew-offs last night, and our tension adjustment has to be adjusted down because our top stitch right now is under emphasized. It's not emphasized enough. So I got to turn this down a little bit so that bobbin case can pull down a little bit harder. Take it down to about well, right around a little bit above 4. These clips have been giving me a little bit of trouble. See if I can get them to work. All right, let me move that back. Yeah, it's nice that it has a drop-in bobbin design so that you can peek in there and see how much thread you have left. Since it only holds about 20 yards of thread, you got to kind of keep an eye on it. So just going to show it to you real quick, and I'll show you why I made that adjustment. See, our top stitch right now is way underdefined, but our lock stitch is looking spot on. See that? So when that happens, where you've got an imbalance, your top stitch isn't poppy enough, you then have to back off this upper tension so that that bobbin case can pull down a little bit harder. So we bumped it down to about 4. I'm going to go ahead and cut this one off that doesn't look so hot, and we'll try stitching down it one more time. And I mentioned the scissors that Susie and I are going to be delivering to Teresa and Tim. It's these scissors right here. The value is about $50. And you can see they're professional tailoring scissors. So we give away some real nice stuff. It's all the more reason that you'll want to get involved in some of the impromptu contests that we do. You can win some really fun, cool stuff. Okay, let's go back to this. Let's give it a try again. We backed off that upper tension. We'll see if we can get that top stitch to be a little bit more pronounced. And then we'll sew through the rest of these stitches. And always when you launch, make sure your take-up arm is at the highest possible position whenever possible. And it starts on that downstroke. See that? That's our perfect launching position. All right, let's try that straight stitch again. Just going to back this up just a little bit. All right, here we go. Oh, yeah, much, much better. You remember what it looked like before. We might even have to go just a little bit further, but it's definitely improved quite a bit. Might even adjust it down just a little bit more. Adjust it down to about 4. See how we're bringing that stitch back to life now? We're getting a nicely defined top stitch, where before it had little or no definition to it. So just realize it's generally a very easy thing to fix. You just have to know what to do. I've had some very experienced sewists that have been sewing for 30 plus years that are battling this issue, and they're trying to adjust the bobbin case because they figure, that's the closest thing to the problem. See if they can work with that first, but it doesn't really help, does it? Let's try to do a zigzag now. So to do a zigzag, we've got to change our pattern selector. We got to move it 1 over. Got to move it 1 over to this stitch right here. So I'm going to push the selector in. I can do that because this is on 1, right? Push this in. I always get a little bit nervous. Did it lock in place? Did it lock in place? So we should be set on the zigzag now. So now we have to check our width and decide how wide we want to go. I think we'll go to about 4. Bring that over to 4. And we have to decide about stitch length. I think we'll reduce it just slightly so we can try to keep the zigzag proportional. So we set it on about 8, set it on 4. This is on 8, that's on 4. Center needle position, and then we've got our pattern selector now on the zigzag. So let's see if we get hopefully we get a zigzag, huh? Hopefully we get a zigzag. And the thing about zigzags, I'll caution you about this. Whenever you're dealing with a zigzag that's going to be going wide with needle swing, you may have to, we've been reducing our upper tension to get a more pronounced top stitch, but you may have to increase this again when you move into the zigzag realm. We'll see if we get any loose zigzag stitching, and then we can make an adjustment accordingly if we need to. But if it's real subtle, then I'll probably just leave it where it's at. Okay, so let's try a zigzag now, and then we'll move into some of the specialty stitches that are on Gloria's machine. Okay, all right, here we go. Let's see how we did on that zigzag. We didn't go quite as wide. Yeah, we didn't do quite as wide, so we did okay. There's a couple tiny little spots right here where we might need to consider increasing that upper tension, but I think I'll leave it alone for right now because we know what to do if we need to do it. All right, bring that needle up a little bit. So again, if you're joining us a little bit late, we're sewing with Gloria's model 626 that she got from her grandfather as a gift, a very special gift, back in 1968. Back in 1968, when she was about 12 years old, just a young lady. And then she went on to win a statewide contest straight away after getting this special gift from Grandpa. So it's really cool. All right, let's move into some of the specialty stitches now, see if we can lay those down on the cotton as well. So again, before we touch the stitch selector, before we say, oh, let's go to this one or let's go to that one, we need to take this down to 1 so that it pulls that finger back, right? Now we can choose one of these other stitches over here. I'll probably go in rank order. I'll go to this one next. Push that in and see if we can let that one out. And then I need to take my stitch width. I've selected this one, the little black one. Now I need to take my stitch width, decide how wide I want to go. I think I'll go for pretty much go for the max. And then I have to go into the fine range now to try to get this stitch defined properly. So I've got to push this up, 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 up. Right about there, I think is pretty good. Maybe go a little bit further. So now we're in the fine range, probably about 25 stitches per inch. I didn't point this out, but you can screw this in if you want to try to lock that in place so that the stitch length lever isn't moving on you. But this is so firmly in place, I don't see that any sewing is going to make this move, but it is an option where you can screw this in and then it'll lock that into position for you. So let's try it there. Let's see what we get. See how we like it. See, that LED light is so bright. If I cover it up, all of a sudden you can see the stitching much, much better. Not too bad. Not too bad. All right, so let's try this specialty stitch now. And if anybody has a name for it, go ahead and throw the name out there. And then we'll call it that name until we change it. All right, let's try this specialty stitch on Gloria's machine. Here we go. Stop right there. And I don't want to beat up our friends at Walmart, the Hello Kitty people. They're actually Hello Hobby. But you'll notice that when I was using those embroidery needles to try to do the same pattern, I was doing the same pattern over here. We were missing stitches right there. We're missing stitches right there. We're missing stitches right there. But when we're using our Schmetz needle, we've got a beautiful pattern display of what that stitch pattern is supposed to look like, don't we? Yeah, really quite lovely, lovely pattern. I don't know if anyone typed it in the live chat what you would call this pattern, but it's quite lovely, isn't it? Quite lovely. Very nice. All right, let me see if I can clip this. I think we still have plenty of thread, hopefully. Let's take a little peek. Oh yeah, we're good to go. We'll go on to our next stitch pattern. We get our material back in place. Yeah, right about there. I think it's pretty good. That's bugging me. I got to clip that thread or we're gonna sew over it. All right, let me try that again. Get that down into position. And we do have our presser foot pressure up on 5 right now, like I showed you. If I open up the faceplate again, you see we have our presser foot pressure on 5. We probably don't need it on 5 for a sew off like this. We've got 2 layers of cotton and we've got a thin little layer of stiffener. We could reduce this pressure foot control down to probably 4, but I'm going to leave it where it's at right now. We'll just see if we have any issues, then we can always back it off then. But no, when it comes to presser foot pressure, the thicker the material, the more layers you're working with, you'll want to increase the pressure. If you're working with something more delicate, like a sheer polyester like this that we're going to be stitching during this live stream, that see-through stuff, or if you're sewing some satin or silk, you'll want to back this off. Otherwise, you're going to get bunching and puckering of that material, okay? Bunching and puckering. And you can see, even though I made this quite narrow, I could even make it more narrow, couldn't I? And that's something Gloria can try. Once you get some machine back, she can make that even tighter by reducing the stitch length even further, okay? So now I'm all excited. Now I'm going to say, okay, let's do the next stitch, but I can't touch this until I do something to this. What do I do to this? Does anyone remember? What do I do to this? The stitch width control. What do I do before I can move this? Anybody? Back to 1. Exactly right, Susie. Take that back to 1 so that finger is pulled back. And now I can adjust this accordingly, can't I? I can go this cool little diamond thing or whatever that is. That'll be our next stitch, hopefully. See if we can do our little diamond thing. So I just set it on the diamond thing. Now I can take my stitch width back to whatever I want. Probably take it to 5. And then I can make this even maybe a little bit tighter, right? A little bit shorter. Push it up even just a little bit more. All right, so I think we're set. Let's go ahead and try this next stitch pattern now. And we'll see how Gloria's machine does with this diamond style pattern. At least that's what I'm calling it. Someone else might call it something entirely different. And you've been listening to Gloria's machine operate. After this next stitch line, I'm going to put on a little bit of music because I'm going stir crazy. It's so quiet in the workshop right now. All right, here we go. This next pattern. One thing I need to check real quick. My take-up arm is not all the way up. There we go. That frees up the mechanics of the machine so that you don't get binding. You don't get that thread that creates a nest on the bottom. When you set it up like that, it launches beautifully without all of those complications. All right, here we go. Our next stitch pattern. Take a look at that one. We'll kind of rotate it around. That's quite a lovely stitch, isn't it? You can see we didn't quite finish it here, did we? I kind of launched in the middle, and that's the thing about cam stacks. Depending on where you start and the position of that cam stack will determine where that pattern starts. So it might start like right there, and then you've got to deal with it if you're stitching something. Some real nice balance too. There's our lock stitching on the back. You kind of see that. We go across. Top stitching. Yeah, really quite spectacular. Give that a clip, get this moved to the rear, and we'll move on to our next stitch pattern. Let me get a little bit of music on. I'm getting a little stir crazy with the silence. I always have music playing in the workshop. Always, always, always. Susie can attest to that. I got a text message. Let me see if it's somebody that I need to respond to. Click on Gloria's special gift picture. This is a message from the owner, and she sent something like, click on Gloria's special gift picture. I don't know what that means. Gloria, I'm lost. Help me out, kiddo. All right, let me put out a little bit more music, and then we will resume sewing. All right, I have a little bit of music in the background. Just soft music. So now we need to get ready for our next stitch pattern, right? I'm going to go ahead and take this all the way down to 1. And then I'm going to be able to change my selector now. I'll go to the next stitch, which looks like it might be some sort of a blind hem stitch, right? Something like that. We'll see what it is. Push this in, bring it to your next stitch. Lock that in. We'll move the stitch width back over. And we'll adjust our stitch length down a little bit. I don't think we need quite as much intricacy on this stitch pattern. I don't think we do. We'll make it a little bit longer, bring it to just above 20. So just above 20, we kind of reduced it a little bit. Got this on 5, center needle position. We've selected that stitch so that we should be getting this one up here just above my finger. Looks like a stretch blind hem stitch maybe. All right, let's try this next stitch. Gloria didn't say that. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what it is then, because I got a text. Yeah, at any rate, it doesn't matter. Cool. All right, let me get this lined up. Yeah, I agree with our friend Glass-Gofflin. Beautiful stitching, beautiful stitching. All right, let's do the next stitch, which should be looks like it's probably a stretch blind hem stitch as best as I can tell. All right, here we go. Yeah, I think that's what it is. It looks like a stretch blind hem. Kind of rotate that around while I'm clipping the threads. And don't be afraid to rock your balance wheel just a little bit if the thread doesn't pull easily. Yeah, that's a lovely one, isn't it? Quite nice. So far we've done the straight stitch, the zigzag, this stitch, that stitch. Now we've done this stitch. Take a look at the lock stitching as well. Yeah, we got a little bit of an anomaly there. Looks like the tension might have slipped a little bit on it. Did a little bit too much overlay on there, so that might mean we have to bump that upper tension back up again. There's not enough pull. I think I'm going to increase that upper tension just slightly so that we can maintain the integrity of that lock stitch. Go up to about 4.5. All right, now we'll do the next stitch, which is going to be this stitch right here. Looks like kind of a mountain stitch, doesn't it? You do that little mountain stitch just above my finger. You got to take this down to 1. Now we can move this over. So I've got it set on the mountain stitch now. Now I've got to take my stitch width back. And then I have to decide how short do I want this. I don't want it incredibly short. So I'm going to move it right about to 20. Right about there, I think. We stop the music for just a moment. All right, let's go ahead and do this next stitch. And then we just have a few stitches left after that to finish. Just a few stitches. This should be our mountain stitch. And watch the precision of what that cam stack does to manipulate that needle. You'll see it move abruptly like this from side to side. And that's all controlled by that cam stack output. And that's why it's so important that we adjust the stitch pattern properly by taking that stitch width down to 1 so that we don't cause damage to that cam stack. Otherwise, it will start doing weird things. So let's give this a try and see what we think. Here we go. I think I may have gone a little bit too big on it. I could have shortened that up a little bit more, maybe made it a little bit more narrow, and a little bit shorter, possibly. You can see still we're getting just a little bit of a weakness on that upper tension, not pulling up enough. We have a little bit of a looseness there, but the machine is doing a great job of executing the patterns. So we're just going to keep moving forward. Check our bobbin thread real quick. Looks like we're still in good shape. All right, let's go to our next pattern now, which is a 3-point zigzag. Go to a 3-point zigzag now. It's going to be our second to the last pattern. It's just above my finger right there. Looks like those little dots. Well, before we move this, we've got to take this down to 1. So I'll take that down to 1. And we'll move this over to the 3-point zigzag. Now we'll move our stitch width back. And you can go less than 5. You can go to 4 or 3 or whatever. I usually just go for max. And then on the 3-point zigzag, I think we'll probably go just a little bit finer than we are. Just go up a little bit. Let's try this 3-point zigzag now. And we've been running about an hour and 41 minutes. We've been going about an hour and 41 minutes. So we'll try to wrap this up pretty soon. I've got a lot of machines waiting right now. And I've got to get back to work because I've got this week, I've got next week, and then that's it. and I've got about 6 or 7 machines to do. So I don't know how many more live streams we'll be doing. The other thing I'll show you real quick is this necky machine. I'm not sure if I'm going to have time to live stream it or not. I hope I am, because it's got a cool little wonder wheel here that you put a cam on. That's what this big piece is right here. You put this cam on, and then these bars attach to this shaft over here. And then as the cam turns, it pulls the needle position and the stitch width from side to side. It doesn't work exactly perfect every time, but it's still really cool. And then you might be wondering about this machine. Why is this one over here? This one I acquired recently. I actually went with the intent of servicing it, and then I purchased it. Susie was with me when I got it. It's a Centennial featherweight. Really quite lovely, don't you think? And I haven't even given it to Susie yet to do some touch-up polishing on the bed, but it's still a lovely machine. And I'm intending to give this machine away. I'm going to be giving this machine away. If anyone has any nominations of somebody that's part of the Cow Country family that you think that would be deserving of a great machine like this, text me privately, not publicly. Text me that person's name privately. Susie can type my phone number in the live chat, and you can say, I think this person really, really deserves it. And who knows, that person might end up getting a Centennial featherweight. Yeah, you never know. Plus, it has a carrying case and all the goodies and accessories with it as well. So, all right. So I've got to set this now on our 3-point zigzag. We've got it set on 3-point zigzag. I've got our width, got our that. So now I'm going to see if I can stitch off on this real quick. And then we'll go to our final stitch that is on Gloria's machine. Our final stitch. All right, let's see if we can get this sewing down. The 3-point zigzag is probably one of my all-time favorite stitches. I just think it looks really cool. All right, so let's give this a go. Here we go. Oh, yeah. Isn't that a lovely stitch? I just think it's spectacular. Such a beautiful, beautiful stitch. All the stitches are beautiful from the straight stitch down. But that's probably the 3-point zigzag is probably one of my all-time favorites. Yeah, beautiful stitching. I'll show you the back side as well. Really good looking stitching on the back as well for the 3-point zigzag. One stitch left. One stitch left. All right, let me pause it. So we want to move to our final stitch, which I call kind of the McDonald stitch. Kind of like a McDonald symbol almost, isn't it? Well, before we move this, I've got to move, not that one. I've got to move this one. That's what happens when I'm looking at the screen, but I'm not looking at the machine. So I got to take this down to 1, then have to push this in, take us to that final stitch over here. Stitch width back. And then we want to make this fairly short for this stitch. I'm going to bump it up just a little bit higher. Yeah, probably right about there. Hopefully I didn't go too far. Yeah, so we're all set up. Let's do this final stitch on Gloria's machine. And yeah, and then we might try a couple of other materials. and then we'll wrap up this live stream. You hear that little clicking? That is the cam stack getting ready to execute this stitch. Okay. All right, let's do this next stitch. And I call it McDonald stitch. You may have a totally different name for it. All right, here we go. Yeah, that's kind of a neat one. Almost looks like a bird, maybe. Or like waves on the ocean. Maybe like waves on the ocean as well. Yeah. There's our lock stitching on the back. Yeah, really a nice looking stitch. So those are all the stitches that you can see right now in the shot. Those are all the stitches that Gloria's machine, this model 626, that she got as a very special gift from her grandfather back in 1968 when she was 12 years old. These are the stitches that this machine is capable of doing. Once I get the camera set properly. Yeah, very, very nice. What can I stitch next? Maybe I'll do some of this real delicate sheer polyester stuff. It's a ribbon material that's popular around the holidays, but I just like sewing it because I think it's so beautiful. So we'll try laying down some stitching on this now and see what we think. And if you buy some of this stuff at the Dollar Tree, be real careful because these little edge pieces have metal running through them, and you don't want your needle to hit that. Let's see what I'll do. Maybe I'll do that little diamond one. All right, so I'm going to try laying down that diamond stitch that I did before, this stitch right here, and I'll see if I can put it down on this polyester. Pause the music. All right, here we go. Let's try this stitch and see how we like this one. Get a little bit closer for you. Oh yeah, I like that one a lot. That's really pretty on this material. I'll show that to you and then we'll move on to some other material and give it a try. So this is again is a polyester material. It's used as a ribbon style material, probably around the holidays and that. Let me put this little cardboard box behind it so that that pattern can be seen more easily, hopefully. It's so sheer, it's kind of hard to get a shot on it. There we go. And you can see I could have made that more narrow, couldn't I? Could have made that more narrow and tightened it up even more. Yeah, very pretty. You can imagine stitching something like this around the holidays as a decorative piece. It really would be quite lovely, wouldn't it? So our lock stitching on the back. Yeah, very, very pretty. I love this stuff. Really nice. And again, I got this at the Dollar Tree. Buck 25 for a reel of this stuff that probably gives you probably about 9 yards, I want to say. Probably gives you about 9 yards of this material. And it's just really a lovely, lovely material to sew on, isn't it? Really a lovely, lovely material to sew on. So check out your local Dollar Tree. You never know what you're going to find, right? Absolutely gorgeous. All right. Well, I should tell you, as I was going through Gloria's machine and fixing the things that needed to be fixed and servicing the machine the way it needed to be serviced, I was reminded in looking at the machine mechanics that by the time Singer was moving into the 1960s, they were changing the engineering of the machines just a little bit. By that, I mean that it's a very well-built machine. It's very solid. And I should also tell you that as you're looking at this machine, we do not have a belt on this machine. I'm not sure if you knew that or not. If you didn't know that, type in the live chat. I had no idea that that machine did not have a belt. It has no drive belt. It's set up like all the other slant-o-matics with gears coming off of the motor and matching gears on the balance wheel. So it's a gear-to-gear drive. So this machine has positive traction, which means if you want to sew through the thickest of thick, this machine is able to do it without slipping, because those gears on the balance wheel side and the gears coming off of the motor, they mesh together perfectly, and you get instant power, instant traction when you're sewing through different materials. But with that said, they also changed some of the parts from traditional metal to a Teflon material. It's a high grade of plastic, but it's not really plastic, Teflon. So while this machine can handle the heavy duty very nicely, you just want to be aware that the engineering changed by the 1960s, the latter 1960s, and these machines are not quite as resilient to repetitive heavy duty sewing as some of the earlier models that Singer made, where certain parts were metal and then eventually migrated towards a Teflon or a plastic material. I hope that makes sense. And I don't mean that as a criticism. I just mean it as a clarifying fact so that you know how to treat this machine and what projects to use it on. It would not be a good everyday leather sewing machine. Would not recommend you use a machine like this on everyday leather. However, you can do it occasionally with leather like this Italian leather. And we're going to try to lay down some stitching on this right now. And you might say, hold on, buddy. Didn't you just say to us that you had a Schmetz stick needle embroidery needle in there? A size 75? Size 75? Yeah. But I push needles all the time. So, as most of you know, Schmetz Needles, a world-renowned company that makes needles, in my opinion, the finest needles in the world. They follow us on Facebook, and I interact with their staff regularly. And they also follow us on YouTube, and they always cringe. They always cringe when they see me getting ready to do something like this, because a stick needle embroidery needle is not really the appropriate needle for sewing leather. But we're going to try it anyway, because we're only doing it as a one-off. We're not going to be doing it again and again and again. So see if we can pull it off. Italian leather. And we'll duplicate the same stitch The same stitch that we just did. The same stitch. And Susie, if you want to note, dear, that's a size 75 that we're sewing with. It's a Schmetz stick needle, embroidery needle, size 75. And thank you to Susie for being our scribe and documenting these things. That's fabulous. So Italian leather, we'd be better off with a universal needle, or better yet, a leather needle. This machine can by all means take a leather needle up to size 110 probably. I didn't test it in the needle socket, but we're going to try sewing this Italian leather, doing a decorative stitch, and we're using an embroidery needle, right? I know. That's why you guys love this channel, though. We're always pushing the limits a little bit, you know? We're always pushing the limits. All right. Let's give this a go. See how we do. Here we go. Adjust the camera a little bit, give you a better shot. Going to do a spot check on our bobbin real quick. We're still good. All right, I'm going to stop right there. So we've got Italian leather. We just sewed it with a stick needle, embroidery needle, size 75. And I really love the look of sewing on leather. I think most of you do as well. It really presents, I think, the stitch patterns beautifully. Really gives them a lot of clarity and a lot of definition. And you really can celebrate the beauty of that stitch when you're stitching on leather. And maybe that's the benefit right now of having that embroidery needle, even though it's not the ideal needle design from an anatomy standpoint. It's nice and sharp, and it's designed for doing intricate work, right? It's designed for doing intricate work. So all in all, I think we maintain stitch integrity beautifully, don't you? I'll go ahead and clip these threads. We'll look at the lock stitching. See how we did on that. And then we might wrap this up pretty quick. We're at 2 hours. So again, that's our top stitching. Wow. Beautiful. I love leather, don't you? Here's our lock stitching on the back. And I think we did really well, although I think with this machine, I think we need to bump up that upper tension even higher, don't you? We need to go a little bit higher on that upper tension, especially considering we're not using a leather needle to get that definition even with greater clarity. It's a very easy fix. It's a very, very easy fix. All we need to do is adjust this up a little bit higher. And then we can tighten up that stitch even more. But all in all, really quite spectacular. That's our lock stitching. Our top stitching is absolutely off the hook. Beautiful. Off the hook, beautiful. So Italian leather, if you've never sewn it before, give it a try. I think you'll fall in love with it just like I have. And I just got a text message. Let me just check to see who the text message is from real quick. Ha! Interesting. This is Jen with UHC. There are new health coverage options made for self-employed business owners. May I send you a quote? Why don't they just leave us alone? We're live streaming, for goodness sakes. And I already have coverage because I'm a veteran through the VA. So I'm going to type back to Jen. Thanks for reaching out, but I am covered by the Veterans Association. Period. Have a great day. And try sewing if you haven't yet. What kind of response will I get? That's fun. You know what? If you're not having fun in life, then you're missing something. You really are. You're missing something. All right. I'm going to put on a little bit of rag time, get a little something to drink. I've been talking continuously for over 2 hours. So I've got to rest my voice just for a second, and then we'll do maybe a little bit more sewing, but we're pretty much done. No, yeah, thank you, Glass Coughlin. Appreciate that. Yeah, I served in the Army, 8 years active, and I worked with Rangers, Special Forces, and also served in the Chaplain Corps too. So busy, busy, busy. Oh, this is fun. We'll try this stuff. All right, let me pause the music. So what I have on the bed of Gloria's machine right now, believe it or not, these materials we're looking at right now, the one that we laid down this really cool stitch on just a moment ago, this is 100% polyester. This also is 100% polyester, but it's made to look like fleece, isn't it? It looks like fleece, but it's actually polyester. So let's go ahead and give this a go. See if I can move us to a different stitch. And kind of go from there. And it looks like Glass Gofflin says, my parents met in the Air Force. Yes, there can be romance in the military, right? Who knew? And when I was in Saudi Arabia, I was there with a Patriot Battalion, providing religious support to them. I had the opportunity to travel between Dhahran and Riyadh every week, visiting with the troops and doing services for them and counseling and other things like that. And we were co-located with the Air Force chaplaincy as well. So I got to know the Air Force people very well. We did services together a couple of times. We never visited the troops together, but we spent quite a bit of time together. I thought they were fabulous. Really did a wonderful job. And they were there. I was there for 6 months, not to bore you with all these details, but I was in Saudi Arabia for 6 months with that Patriot Battalion, providing religious support and counseling, etc. My Air Force counterparts were there for a year. So they were there twice as long as me, but they were able to bring their family along. So if you were married and had a spouse, children, your spouse and children could come with you to Saudi Arabia and visit the really cool markets where they have these big wooden barrels full of raw, semi-precious jewels, rubies, sapphires, and you could grab a handful of these things and give them to the skilled jeweler on the other side of the counter, and they would cut them into anything that you wanted. You came back in about a week and they would make you a necklace with them. They would make you a bracelet. They would make you a ring. And all the gold there, for the most part, is 24 karat. You wanted to be careful what you chose. But yeah, Saudi Arabia is a beautiful, beautiful country. Dangerous, yes. Black scorpions, camel spiders. If anyone wants to Google camel spiders, they're a very freaky, freaky creature that's about this big, about the size of a softball. And the way they got their name is when you're traveling through the desert on a camel, they will work their way onto the camel when it's laying down on the ground. Camels will lay down on the ground when they're resting. And the camels then are vulnerable in a sense, and the camel spiders will latch onto the bottom of the camel. And if you're riding that camel, I rode camels a couple of times when I was in Saudi. When you're riding that camel, sometimes all of a sudden you'll look down at your leg and there's this huge spider on your leg. And they're not venomous, but they've got these on the front of them. They've got these big prongs. They're razor sharp, and they can penetrate through even fairly heavy blue jeans. And when the soldiers got really bored, really bored, they would create these long troughs with a high board on either side and this long open space. And they would put a camel spider on one end that they captured, and they would put a black scorpion on the other end. And eventually these two little creatures would work their way to the middle as the soldiers were watching anxiously, and they would do battle. Who do you think would win the fight most of the time? Not to be overly graphic and gross, but who do you think would win the fight most of the time between the camel spider and the black scorpion? And if you don't know anything about black scorpions, they're one of the most aggressive scorpions in the world. Incredibly good fighters, very, very agile. They got that long tail and they can stick anything with that poisonous little dart on the end and kill it very quickly. But who do you think won most of the time in those troughs between the camel spider and the scorpion? Glass Gofflin is saying scorpion. Most people would say, I'll bet you the scorpion was able to kill that spider, because spiders are notoriously soft skins. They don't have a exoskeletal structure that's incredibly strong, do they? Not usually. They're kind of soft. Believe it or not, and we didn't do this statistically, but I'm saying approximately 95% of the time, the camel spider would kill the scorpion. 95% of the time. And it's because it was very quick, it was very strong, and it would get to the head area of the scorpion and basically dominate it, and then drive those big fangs right into the back, right through that exoskeleton of the scorpion, and would kill it instantly before it could sting the spider. So yeah, creepy. Yeah, they're creepy little things. Yeah, I wish we could post pictures on live streams, because scorpions, you pretty much get an idea of how they look. But a camel spider, if you Google it, camel spider Saudi Arabia, you will be amazed how big they are and how creepy they are. Yeah. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. All right, let's transition. Let's transition. So we're going to do this final stitch off pretty much on this 100% polyester, made to look like fleece material, 2 layers of it, relatively thick. Kind of see that from the edge. Relatively thick stuff. And I think we'll lay down a decorative stitch on it. Again, maybe we'll do the McDonald symbol or the mountain. Does anybody have a preference whether we do the black one up here, the little potato one, or whether we do the diamond one, the mountain one, 3-point zigzag, or the McDonald symbol. If anyone has a preference, type it in the live chat. Type it in the live chat, and I'll stitch off that stitch on this 100% polyester made to look like fleece. Susie's saying 3-point zigzag. We probably have enough room for 2 stitch lines. So if somebody else has another one of those stitches they want to see, go ahead and type it into the live chat, especially if the owner is still with us. I don't know if the owner is still with us or not, but if Gloria wants to pick one of those stitches to lay down on this 100% polyester made to look like fleece, that would be, oh, okay. Glass Gofflin is saying, what about the potato cocoon? Yeah, that's a good name for it. I love that. Let's do the potato cocoon first, and then we'll do the 3-point zigzag second. So I can't move this yet, can I? I can't move that because we're over on 5. Got to move this over to 1, and now I can move this over to the potato stitch, potato cocoon stitch, right? So I've got it on the potato cocoon stitch. Now we have to adjust our stitch width back. And we're going to adjust our stitch length. I'm trying to think the cocoon one. Probably want to go as fine as possible, but not too far. If we go too far up, then we're not going to have any material movement. So I think we'll do it right about there. Right about there. Hopefully that's not too short. Hopefully that's not too short. So let's try this one out. Oh, Sheila Kilgore. Hey, how you doing, Sheila? Good to see you, dear. Great to have you here. All right, let's try this potato cocoon stitch. Potato cocoon. I'm loving this stitch name. And we'll see how Gloria's machine does on this. It's kind of a tricky material because it's so fluffy. You know what? It's so fluffy duffy that there's opportunity for the material not to feed well. So hopefully I'm able to steer it pretty well and we're able to get a good result. All right, check my bobbin real quick. It looks like we're still good to go. So let's give this a try, and we'll lay down the 3-point zigzag next to it, okay? Oops. I just had a thread jam. Hold on a second. Oh, I see what happened. Okay. Yeah, this is probably not, this is not a great material to do a stitch like this on, but I wanted to try it anyway. It's so squishy and pivots so much that I think I'll go to the 3-point zigzag. I'll get the machine back so it's good to go again. But yeah, if you're going to do something like this, you probably want to consider doing it with a some sort of a stiffener to give it a little bit more, stability, Make sure our bobbin is still okay. Yep, we're good to go. Yeah, that's a little bit too squishy with a decorative stitch like that. I probably pushed that a little bit too far. That's okay. Let me rethread us again. Oops, that thread. Static electricity is a factor too today. As soon as I push that thread through, I'm getting it kind of curling on me a little bit. There we go. All right. Well, we won't stitch that. See, this stuff is just so stretchy. It's so doggone stretchy. With a pattern like that, yeah, it's problematic. I'll show you what we got. Considering the setup and everything, I think we did pretty well. But yeah, we're not gonna finish stitching that one. We'll change to the 3-point zigzag on this type of polyester material. Yeah, it's not happy. We did a lot better. This is our lock stitching on the back. Our lock stitching had a lot better stability. You can see that in the shot. But even that struggled a little bit. But our top stitching was absolutely not happy. That's our top stitching for that stitch on this 100% polyester. It's not awful. It's not awful. But yeah, it's not what we want to be seeing. Let me see if I can lay down that 3-point zigzag on this. I got this stuff all stretched out of shape now. I'll do my best. I might not even go the full length. Maybe I'll meet these two together in the middle. The other thing I'll do real quick, and I didn't do it through the entire live stream, is I'm going to reduce that presser foot pressure a little bit. It's part of our problem is it's causing that material to pucker because it's pushing down so hard. It's pushing down so hard right now. So I'm going to back this off. We're on 5. I'm going to go all the way down to 3. Good on the 3, and we'll try stitching this 3-point zigzag with a lighter presser foot pressure and see if that helps us a little bit. So off camera, I'm taking our stitch width back down to 1 again so I can change to the different pattern. Moving it back. All right, now we're going to try this 3-point zigzag. I'll see if I can steer around this weird little curve. See, I had it too short, and then I also had too much presser foot pressure. I'll see if I can sew down and around this curve, but no promises. See what I can do. All right, here we go. This will probably be our last stitch. I keep saying that, don't I? All right, let me try it again. All right, I'm going to stop right there. And see, I hadn't considered that. I hadn't considered the factor of presser foot pressure. This stuff is so stretchy and so squishy. I should have thought before I tried this one, I should have thought about reducing the presser foot pressure. We took it from 5 down to 3. Even the feed of this was so much better. If you notice that as it was moving through and I was navigating that little turn, there was no issue with it bunching. There was no issue with it puckering up because we dropped that presser foot pressure from 5 down to 3. And I just didn't think about it for this one. I should have. It would have been a better outcome. But that's okay. That's okay. We learn from our opportunities and our oversights, our mistakes, and then we pursue and we persevere, and eventually we get greatness again. Let's take a look at this 3-point zigzag in contrast to the first stitch off we tried on this fake fleece material. And yeah, I think you'll be real pleased. See if I can get it lined up here correctly. So there's our 3-point zigzag. You can kind of sort of see it. Go across, we can look at that. Really quite lovely. And this, again, if you look at it, it almost looks like a furnace filter, doesn't it? The way this polyester is made into look like fleece, it almost looks like a furnace filter. So you can imagine what it's like to drive a needle through that and maintain stitch integrity without some serious manipulation of the presser foot pressure and also the tension as well. Kind of look at it like this also. Yeah, really, really quite nice. What a leap and bound difference between our attempt to do that other stitch with that presser foot pressure cranked up to 5. And yeah, presser foot pressure plays a big role in success, doesn't it? Plays a big role in success. Try it like this as well. Yeah, very, very nice. Turn it over. How we do on the lock stitch? Did we maintain some good tension on the lock stitch? It looks like we did, all in all. Maybe even needed just a little bit more tension on there. I also got this fake fleece material that's made from polyester. I got that at the Dollar Tree as well. But it's good to see a contrast like this where we struggled with that first stitch because of my oversight of not reducing that presser foot pressure. The machine was doing everything right in trying to advance that squishy, gushy fake fleece material, but it was pushing so hard, it was causing it to bind up. And eventually it caused that thread to misfeed, didn't it? And I had to rethread the machine. Then we dropped that presser foot pressure from 5 down to 3. And even through that curve, it just did a brilliant job. It did a brilliant job. So, and we're not talking about a light sew off as far as thickness. If you look at that from the side, that's a lot of material. And it's real, like I said, it's fibrous. It's very fibrous. So you got to be mindful of that when you're stitching as far as your settings on the machine. And then you can generate some really decent stitching. Second time around. The second time around. All right, I will do one last stitch off. I know I said that already. I'll do one last stitch off. This is a leather that Susie and I just found. It's full grain leather. It's probably one of the toughest, hardest leathers that you can possibly sew. And I can already hear the shrieks, moans, and groans from our friends at Schmetz Needles who are saying, Scott, don't do it. You already did Italian leather, man. You already did Italian leather and it was brilliant. Stop while you're ahead. Stop while you're ahead, man. I got to try it. I just got to try it. So full grain leather, very, very hardcore stuff. Better, much, much better sewed if you're using a leather needle larger than a 75. And yeah, but we're going to try it with a stick natal embroidery needle, size 75. See how we do. We'll see how we do. No guarantees. Let's see. What was the last one? Last one we did was a 3-point zigzag. What should I try on this one? I guess we should probably duplicate the same thing we did on Italian leather. That way we can see how the stitching presents on here compared to Italian leather, right? Here we've got an Italian leather. It's a little bit softer. Here we've got full grain leather. It's much harder, much denser. We'll do exactly the same stitch and see what outcome we get. See how we do, right? There's no harm in trying. All right, so I'm taking my stitch width down to 1. Excuse me, so I can move the stitch selector. Moving it over now to the same stitch. And yeah, keep your fingers crossed. Keep your fingers crossed. Again, I do not recommend this machine for continuous or frequent leather sewing, but occasionally it's okay. Occasionally it's okay if you want to try something. I just wouldn't do it all the time because it may harm the machine. So, all right, let's see how we do on this final sew off. On Gloria's 1968 model 626, also known as the Touch and Sew, that her grandfather gave her on her 12th birthday. And then she went on to win a statewide sewing contest with this very machine. How cool is that? I mean, you imagine how there, and certainly anyone, but you imagine how the grandfather felt after he saw his granddaughter at that young age step up to a major statewide competition and beat everybody else out, probably people that were older than her by quite a bit. But Gloria, I've met her face to face. She's a cow country girl. She's a cow country girl. She's like, bring it on. Bring it on. So hopefully we'll try this, see how we do. All right, here we go. Final sew off. Almost feel like I want to put on some sort of fun music. Hold on a second. Yeah, ragtime is good, but let's put on some dance music. Put on some dance music. Turn it down quite a ways. All right, final sew off for Gloria's 1968 Touch and Sew model 626. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? What did I forget to do? We got to turn it back up. We're sewing leather, for goodness sakes. Leaping lizards, I'm slipping. At least I caught it early. All right, I'm going to stop right there. Oh, yeah, we maintain good lock stitching as well. Needle up. And that is full grain leather, folks. Full grain leather. Absolutely amazing. Amazing. I like it on the black better. I'm just being honest with you. I like it better on the black. It's just like super cool, but it's cool here too. Yeah, it is. Let's take a look at that lock stitching. Could have made that even tighter, right? Could have made that even tighter. But some beautiful, beautiful stitching. I want to thank the owner, Gloria, and also her brother who showed up as well, I believe. I want to thank them for the opportunity of having this great machine in the workshop. After they tried 4 times, to get this machine repaired. And wherever they took it, I don't want to point fingers, but wherever they took it, it just, it wasn't done properly, right? It wasn't done properly. And now we've sewn full grain leather. We've sewn Italian leather. We've sewn fleece with success and less than success. We've sewn this polyester material with absolute success. 100% cotton, absolute success. Yeah. So neat stuff. Great story about this machine. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity of taking care of this before I left the Twin Cities. And Susie and I are going to be heading to Kentucky in just a matter of weeks. We'll be gone. So God bless you all. Thanks to the leadership team for doing such a great job of taking care of the family. My leaders make it happen. They do a brilliant job, and I'm so grateful for them, each and every one of them. So God bless. And again, take care. See ya. Yeah, very nice. Oh, yeah. Uh huh. Yeah, baby. Yeah.